Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Nate Bargatze will host a holiday special for CBS. Put that in your back pocket. It's produced by Lorne Michaels. The press release tells us the show will shine a spotlight on the heart and spirit of Nashville during the holiday season, including family, fun, and feel-good moments that resonate with audiences of all ages. Nate said, "I'm extremely excited to be creating this special as I've long been a big fan of variety and we don't see enough of it. I want to make a great show for families to gather around and watch together, and I couldn't be in better hands than with this team. No title yet, no date yet other than December. My hemming and hawing, don't all Lorne Michaels projects go to NBC/Peacock? This one going to CBS/Paramount Plus in SNL's 50th season? That's odd." Adam Sandler announced on Monday that Happy Gilmore 2 is in production. Exciting. Netflix posted on Twitter, Happy Gilmore 2 is officially in production. Sandler went on Instagram and said, "It ain't over. The way I see it, we've only just begun." Adam Sandler also dropped by the Manning cast during Monday Night Football when my San Francisco 49ers completely manhandled the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers threw a pass intended for wide receiver Garrett Wilson, was tipped in the air and intercepted by 49ers linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Adam Sandler said, "Maybe you should get rid of me. I don't want to be here. I'm going. That was terrible. This is a mistake." Jimmy Fallon was mid-monologue and then suddenly said, "Wait, I can't do that joke. That news is almost 3 months old." Then out walks Colin, Jost, and Michael Che. Jost said, "Seems old to you, Jimmy, but we've been away all summer. There's so much news that we haven't been able to joke about, so we were wondering, would it be okay if we told some of those jokes from the summer right now?" Fallon agreed, as if Fallon's going to go, "No, I'm hosting The Tonight Show. I can't believe you just walked on and thought we were going to do a surprise segment. That's not how the show works." Fallon said in July, Donald Trump chose Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate, to which Che tagged, "Well, I guess he can't dodge every bullet." Fallon said, "I saw that Kendrick Lamar hosted a massive Juneteenth concert in L.A. Che joked, which is weird because I thought it was Drake who liked the teenths. You either know what that means or not." Most of Colin Jost's lines had the implication they were written by Che to sabotage him. Fallon said, "This summer, Louisiana became the first state to mandate that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom." Jost said, "Wow, every public school classroom? My only question is, what's public school?" Fallon, an Indiana court ruled that a taco's a sandwich. Jost, a taco's a sandwich. That's it. Build the wall. Speaking of Colin Jost, his ferry did get into use. Tommy Hilfiger welcomed guests aboard the MV John F. Kennedy, the decommissioned Staten Island ferry. They did a little fashion show Sunday night. Colin Jost was there. Pete Davidson was not there. Brooke Shields was there. Speaking of Saturday Night Live, they've added 3 new cast members for season 50, and one has left. The new cast members, Ashley Padilla, Emil Joachim, and Jane Wickline. They are in. Chloe Trost apparently was on the show. Chloe no longer on the show. I couldn't pick Chloe Trost out of a lineup. On Instagram, Chloe Trost wrote, "Unfortunately, I was not asked back to SNL this season. I wish I was going to be back with all the amazing friends I made there. It truly felt like home." Marcelo Hernandez, Michael Longfellow, and Devon Walker make the jump from featured players to the main cast. Maya Rudolph will be back as Kamala Harris. Chloe Trost joins Punky Johnson and Molly Kearney as non-returning cast members. Padilla has been a member of the Groundlings since 2021. Joaquim has performed stand-up at The Tonight Show and Just for Laughs, where he was named a new face of comedy in 2022. Wickline is part of the ensemble for Stapleview, which we're told is a sketch show that's gained a sizable TikTok following. Larry David is doing a tour. It's called A Conversation with Larry David, 10 cities, beginning in Denver on the 20th of this month. The events will feature Larry David in an information discussion with a local moderator. Topics will include Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and everything in between. Very exciting. Denver, Seattle, San Fran, Philly, Atlanta, Chicago, Portland, Oregon, Phoenix, Austin, and Hollywood, Florida on December 5th. Netflix announced Ali Wong's new special. It is called Single Lady. It'll be out in October, filmed at the Wiltern Theater in L.A. as part of the Netflix festival. Ali opens up about post-divorce life and the quest for love. I didn't know this. Ali Wong was named one of Time's 100 most influential people in both 2020 and 2023. Ricky Gervais is in a fight with his neighbors over plans to build a noisy tennis court. I don't know if he's planning to build a noisy tennis court, but that's what the neighbors are saying. Ricky wants to rip up his back garden and put down a new permeable sports surface for the occasional game of tennis. He also has plans to demolish a basketball court, water wall, pergola, and some retaining walls. Neighbors are complaining about noise and loss of privacy and, the trees being torn down in a designated conservation area. Neighbors fear the court could also be used for five-a-side football and lead to flooding. I don't know. Is Ricky Gervais having people over for some 5-on-5 soccer games? I struggle to imagine it, but what do I know? In a letter to the local council, one neighbor wrote, "It will not only be the ball or balls being hit or bounced before serving that will be noisy. If practicing a machine firing balls over the net is even more noisy, the players will make noise when speaking or shouting to each other. From time to time, there'll be spectators watching, shouting and cheering. There's no fencing around the court, so there'll be a danger of being hit by a ball." Boy, I don't know who to side with here. Like, if my neighbors were tearing down the woods and putting in a tennis court, I'd be like, all right, that's a little bit much. But on the other hand, I don't think I'd be worried like I'm sitting by my pool and a tennis ball is going to hit me. I'm not too worried about that. Also, if the neighbors started having 5-on-5 soccer games in the yard, I'd probably ask to play. Ricky Gervais's planning agent said, "This new lawn has no enclosure or lighting and has been designated to be visually and acoustically screened from the neighbors." Officials at Barnett's Council will make a decision later this month. Today is September 11th. I am a New Yorker. I was in the city on that particular day, so it is not a day I can ignore. Back in 2021, Vulture wrote about how comedians handled the environment after 2021. Very good article if you want to go back and read it. They spoke to Bob Saget at the time, who said about 2 or 3 weeks right after 9/11, I went to New York because I had a press tour for a TV show that was premiering October 5th. I think I went up at the Comedy Cellar and talked about it a bit, sarcastically and backhandedly plugging a sitcom and how meaningless everything felt, especially show business. And yet I felt it was part of my job to make people laugh when I could, as soon as it felt like they wanted it and needed it. I had not one joke about 9/11. When I did stand-up, it was to distract with my silly jokes, and if they were reverent, it was only in the way of talking about things that were unrelated to that event in my PG-19 style of comedy. There'll never be anything funny about 9/11. I've never done a joke about it. The mere mention of it does for me what it does for most people. It makes us hurt as deeply as possible for those that perished and for all those who lost their loved ones. Patton Oswalt said, "I was on stage less than a week later. Blaine Capitch woke me up with the scariest phone call I've ever received. It was 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, and there's Blaine's voice in my ear after I answered saying, 'Turn on the TV, man.' I asked what channel. He said, 'Doesn't matter,' and then he hung up. The walk from my bedroom to the TV in the living room was 18 nightmares and as many steps. Click on the TV, and I'm living in a different world. I was on stage at the Largo the next Monday, the 17th. I'd had 6 days to be variably hopeful and stupid, angry, paranoid, and then terrified. So I hit the stage that Monday. I was the least present I'd ever been as a comedian and as a person. So was everyone else. No one didn't talk about it on that show. I think Sarah Silverman and Kevin Secchia went up. I can't remember anyone else, and I can't remember too much of what I said. Except at one point out of nowhere, I just blurted, I keep seeing people say the hijackers are all religion and violence, and they are, but we're the bloated late 70s Zeppelin and Emerson, Lake and Palmer of religion and violence. Those guys are the Ramones. They'll carry their own amps while we're arguing for bigger fog machines, something like that. There was a lot of fear and self-righteousness, and I knew right as I was saying it that the comedy was going to suck for a while. Maj Jabrani said either the following Saturday, maybe 2 Saturdays after, I'd been hired to do a private event at someone's house in Irvine, California. Irvine is pretty notoriously red statey, and I called this guy and I said, "Hey, I don't know if it's a good idea if I come to do my show. How can you be funny now? And with my background, I feel like I'm coming to the Dragon's Lair." And the guy was like, "Nah, you should come. People need to laugh. It'd be good for everybody. And listen, if it makes you feel any better, my wife's actually Turkish, so she's from that part of the world as well, and that helped me feel a little more okay." I flipped my act, so it didn't lead with me being Iranian. At one point I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm Iranian," and then said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I know, I'm disappointed too." Meaning, hey, I didn't have anything to do with it. I felt like I had to tiptoe into that portion of my act because of my fear of having some sort of retribution. The difficult part of the show was not that it was necessarily that there were a bunch of racists there staring at me. It was the show being at a fancy home in Irvine outside by a pool, which is not the best for comedy acoustics. I remember I bought an American flag and put it at the back of my car. I don't know if it was out of fear of having somebody shoot me or if it was out of patriotism. It was probably out of both. I was pulling into the parking lot of the Comedy Store, and there was this comedian, Marilyn Martinez. She was laughing at me in a funny way. She was like, "Oh my God, look at Maj Jabrani. He's got his flag to try and blend in." And I go, "Hell yeah, Marilyn, I'm blending in." That's your comedy news for today.